Welcome to HVAC Full Blast, where you get industry inputs for real results. Today, we're diving into a topic that resonates with business owners and leaders at every stage, navigating business expansion, merging company cultures, and overcoming the chaos of growth. Let's get started.
All right, welcome back. It's Mary Carter and Stephen Ross, just two people with four first names. And today we decided to wear matching outfits.
Hey, stripes for the win.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta stay in your lane and have a little reminder of that, right?
There you go.
And in order to stay in my lane today, I decided that it'd be great to maybe learn from somebody else. And you were so kind enough to invite on a guest.
I am, yeah. I'd like to introduce Tim Mozley. Tim and I have known each other for quite some time, probably all the way back to 2008 or so. But we also spent the last 7 years as business partners. And we sold that business at the end of 2024. And so Tim, I think there's some things that we'll learn from Tim. I mean, just to give you, Mary, a little quick background, Tim was in the Marines. He was a pilot. He's got an undergrad engineering degree. He's got an MBA. He started his own company back in 2008 as a duct cleaning company. He added on heating and air. He added on plumbing. He added on electrical. He brought in me as a business partner. And so there's a lot of different ways we could go, but Tim has learned a lot of lessons over the last 10 or 15 years. I thought we could pick his brain a little bit.
Excellent. Welcome, Tim.
I appreciate that. That's you left nothing out except pest control. I forgot about pest control.
Yeah, yep. So Tim now owns a pest control company. So there you go.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Definitely want to dive into some of that pilot life, but that's so great. Nice to meet you, Tim. And now that you have, really sold that first business, what are you up to now, and what's it like to be kind of out here in the wild?
Yeah, so I really appreciate you inviting me onto the show. We sold the business in September of last year, and it is fantastic. Payroll went from $95,000 a week to nothing. I've got to be honest, it took about 6 months for, let's call it PTSD, but it's not really PTSD. Well, maybe it is, but for me to stop waking up at 2:00 in the morning, sweating and worried. Every now and then that still happens, but I have to remind myself that it's not real. Go to sleep. Go back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they say you worry because you care, right? But yeah, I think we'll call that PTSD, right?
Yeah, and it's real. It's really, really real. I've had to rethink my life. I got to tell you that men in particular tend to define themselves by what they do, and all of a sudden, something I'd done for 16 years, I no longer did. So that was tough. That was a tough part of it. But I think I worked through that, and I've jumped into a bunch of other stuff. So I'm as busy. I'm as busy as I've ever been. So life is good.
So in our partnership, I was kind of sales and marketing, and Tim was everything else. I managed a couple of salespeople. Tim managed the other 65 employees, and we called that a 50-50 partnership.
Yeah.
But Tim's like the operations side, running a business. I mean, everything from, payroll, as Tim mentioned, the accounting side of it, to setting up, making sure our management structure in place was correct. So Tim, you're now doing that full time. You're helping other companies evaluate their operation structure and putting together, hey, how are you going to grow? What's your game plan? What are your strategies moving forward? How do you restructure the company for that growth? Is that an accurate summary of kind of what you're doing now?
About halfway through that journey, around 2016, got introduced into a great system and implemented it into the business, and it focuses on exactly what you just said. A lot of structure, processes, but people, issue solving, data, vision, all of that stuff. And that really helped me kind of bring all of that stuff that's going on in the business together. And when I say together, not just me in my head, but also the leadership team, because that's the biggest limiting factor for a lot of companies when they first start. They get to about 4, 5, 6 employees, and that's about as much as one person can responsibly manage. When you get past that, they start losing control. Culture goes downhill. People don't get paid right. Disagreements, you don't have any way to resolve those. So you really have to have a way to create some systems in place and learn how to duplicate yourself and shed responsibilities. And if you don't have a way to do that, it's chaos. And that's why most, at least in the services businesses, they don't get really off the ground. You can create a great job for yourself and make really good money with 4, 5, 6 employees, but that wasn't my goal. Is to create a job, is to create something of everlasting value that gave me options at the end of that road. And we chose to take the sale option, but there were other options available.
So let's think through that for a second, because, we were talking in one of our earlier podcast episodes about just the overall heating and air economy. And so one of the things that happens is you have a bunch of companies kind of start up, and then bigger companies gobble them up. And then the employees at those companies sometimes spin off and they go out and they start a bunch of companies. And so we're in kind of one of those cycles right now where lots of people are starting their own heating and air companies, plumbing companies, electrical companies. They're spinning off because the company that they work for got bought by somebody else, and they thought maybe now's a good time to go out on my own. So let's say you got a heating and air technician. He goes out on his own. He's the sole employee. He's got to do everything. He's got to generate leads and get business and go find it, and do all the accounting and do all the work that, and so you did that. I think that was 2008. You went out on your own. You started a business. You had to do everything. And then at some point you say, oh, wait a minute, I got to bring on my next employee. But when you bring that employee on, 100% of that employee's income is income that you would have had if you hadn't brought on that employee. So that's a struggle for a lot of guys that start their own business, is bringing on that first employee. How did you pay them? Yeah. I mean, think all the way back in 2008, but how'd that go? Because you did it successfully.
You make it sound like I'm some sort of hero, but I knew better than that. And so my first business was actually a franchise, and they really helped kind of get all these things organized in my mind, how to move forward. So I came in, as a sole proprietor, basically, and it took me about 6 months to hire 2 full-time. And at that point, every time we hired somebody at that level, you have to reorganize the whole business, top to bottom. So you have to be comfortable with that. And every time you hired somebody, you had to shed off some of your roles so that so that I could focus more on the things that I love to do and that I'm great at. And that's really the goal, is always keep in mind everything you do, but differentiate between those things that you don't like to do and you're not good at. And those are the things you want to get rid of. You want to hire people that do like to do those things, because there are people out there that like to do payroll, and there are people out there that like to do all the things in business that you don't like to do. So hire those jobs into the business and allow you to focus on the things that you like doing and you're good at. For me, that was business development, sales. I never quite got rid of everything that I should have, but I recognized where my greatest benefit to the company as a whole would be, and that's what I designed the company around as best I could. Right.
I think what's really coming through for me about your story here is, how process driven you are, right? And oftentimes when we see employees from the military, right, really great processes kind of laid in there, and can often be, really great employees because they like a process. Right. And so it's interesting to hear you go from like Marines and then franchise, you're kind of like inheriting their process, right? And then you go to now sole proprietor, really running your own ship here. And you mentioned, the expansion of employees being one of the markers where you were bubbling over to like, maybe I need to find more process. Was there anything in particular or anything that happened, like a story that you were like, oh, no, like we're in over our heads. I got to find the tool here.
Oh, every day. Yeah. So because I started with the franchise, they came in with all those processes, and that was fantastic. I was able to learn from that and apply that to the additional lines of work that we added, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, along with the process system that I implemented in 2016. So the challenge is to get it out of your head and into other people's heads. And I'll caution you, the answer is not to document 100% of every process you do, because that makes a very cumbersome document, 700 pages that no one's ever going to read. Try to keep it very simple and high level, and that way when it changes or you need to alter it, you change vendors, you change payment processing, you change whatever, it's a one line fix instead of 17 lines that you have to dig in and spend 45 minutes dealing with. So get together with your team, meet often, have effective meetings, right, that follow an agenda, that you do the same thing every time. Many people hate having meetings because they never know what to expect. They start late because people show up late, and they go long because you over discuss problems. So those little things that, if you can put all that together, will really help move the company forward. And if you don't master those skills, you're going to get stuck. You're going to hit a ceiling, and you're not going to know why, and you're not going to be able to punch through it.
Oh, I think we could do a whole episode on running good meetings.
For sure.
So true. And full disclosure, it took me a long time to buy into setting an agenda. I just fought it, and I thought, no, people like the free flow conversation. And what I found, what I found is that actually that drones on and on and on. And then I personally couldn't keep up with the deliverables and the takeaways from the meeting, because a conversation might have, branched into 100 different ways, and I couldn't keep up. So the agenda actually became a way for me to hold myself accountable. So, I mean, oh man, Stephen and I like to talk around here. We could probably do that for a long time.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, you started out duct cleaning, you added heating and air, which is kind of a natural fit, but at some point you said, hey, let's expand into plumbing.
Yeah.
And some companies don't expand well. Like I've seen a few heating and air companies, they add a plumbing department, they try to give it a go, and then a year or two down the road, like that didn't work, and they have to kind of pull back and shut it down. What are some of the struggles if you're going to go multi-trade and kind of add on another trade? What do you think causes some companies to struggle with that or not do well? What did you do well that kind of kept the plumbing going?
Okay, so first of all, plumbing's difficult. I'll just tell you that right now. But so is electrical, and so is pest control. So I can tell you what I did to bring those different lines on into the company. Put a lot of effort and time into thinking through as much as I could. So a couple of tools out there, SWOT analysis. Most people know what that is, SWOT. If you don't, Google it, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's a really good brain teaser. Just kind of get you thinking about different things. Think about it relevant to adding plumbing to the business, for example. There's another tool out there, the 7 Ps of marketing. That is also one you need to search online. But it's centered around marketing, but it touches in all aspects of the business. It also gets you thinking about a lot of different things. Also really important, if you're not a subject matter expert, you find somebody that is, and make sure you get along with them. And I was lucky to have done that with plumbing and with electrical. Both of the guys that I brought in were masters of their trades and just good people and easy to work with.
Nice.
Yeah. So we can also talk about acquisitions. So we bought an electrical company. You remember this? We bought an electrical company in 2019 that I think at the time we had just started electrical in the business in like March of 19. In October, we bought another company. We bought an electrical contractor. He was doing about 800 a year, and so many things to think about with that. And I still have the notes, but did the SWOT, did the 7 Ps. Just random brainstorming, talked to different people, talked to my electrician who was on board. And my goal was the day of the acquisition, the day of the sale, we walk in, we tell the employees, get a lot of eye rolls and all that kind of stuff. I still remember Marcus rolling his eyes. But we thought through all the way through getting the stickers ready for the trucks. So that we were down for a day, next day we're operating. And I think people appreciate that because it takes the mystery out of not sure. It certainly helps you look a little more competent. They who know you? We don't know this guy. We don't know his company. And if you come in and you fumble, it doesn't set a good stage. So we went through a lot of lot of effort to make sure that that first day went as well as it could. I would call that acquisition a success, because the next year, 2020, so this is October of 19, 2020, we did $1 million in that department. And that was, of course, COVID hit us hard that year. And we were able to, I'm not going to say grow, but it probably is in comparison growth, but we were able to maintain our levels, combination of the two companies put together in 2020. I would call that a success.
How about like culture clash? So you've got a company that's running pretty well. You go buy a company, and now all of a sudden you got to put them together. And Mary and I have spent some time just talking about culture and the importance of it and so on. And what was the biggest challenge blending two different cultures together?
Yeah, so we brought 12, 14 people on board that we didn't hire. And some of them were really good people, and some of them were the kind of people you didn't really want working for you, right? At least I didn't want them working for me. But nobody got fired the first day. It tended to work itself out, because if you're consistent with your core values, you're consistent with your message, eventually people will decide on their own. Do I want to be here and participate, or do I want to leave? So we did have some turnover. I think when we sold the business, there was only 2 of those dozen or so that were left in the business. But those 2, number one was a top level electrical technician, and the other one was my general manager. So that was a great, if nothing else worked out, just finding John would have been worth that investment.
One of my favorite memories, Mary, is of Tim. We had a technician. One of the requirements was technicians had to wash their vans. And we had a technician decide he didn't want to wash his van. What he was going to do with his van is drive through a car wash. So he drove his company van with a ladder rack on the top through a car wash and did about $100,000 worth of damage. And so one of my favorite memories of
bringing
Tim,
it back up.
Yeah. So Tim, there's some joys of owning a business that sometimes you don't expect, like when one of your employees drives your van through a car wash and does $100,000 worth of damage. What are some of the lessons? What are some of the surprises you had as a business owner where you were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know I was going to be dealing with this?
And for those of you who are on our audio only experience, my face is gobsmacked. So,
There's all kinds.
That 100,000 didn't include the damage to the van, because I fixed that on my dime, because I was trying not to do a claim. So thankfully that claim didn't hit the insurance until the year before we sold. And the auto insurance went from $70,000 a year to $170,000. And my agent was like, "That's the best you're going to get." Oh my God, dang. So that was fun dealing with that. But I mean, if you're talking employee issues.
Well, just surprises. I mean, I think I know I had lots of surprises being a business owner for the first time. I didn't know if there's any that jumped out at you, like, hey, I didn't realize we were going to have to deal with this.
Sales tax, sales and use tax. We got audited for that. I'm like, we're in a state where we don't pay sales tax for services. So I didn't have a sales tax number with the state, but come to find out, you're supposed to pay sales tax on everything you buy that is out of state. And I didn't even realize we bought that much stuff out of state. But the South Carolina Department of Revenue felt like we did. And they came in and audited us, and their first number was like 110 grand. That's how much you owe us. I was like, what? And we eventually, after spending days, weeks, months, hours on a daily basis dealing with that, finding these receipts that were 3 and 4 years old, going back to vendors and getting receipts, proving that we did actually pay sales tax. It ended up being like 12 at the end of the day, but oh my God, that was a nightmare. So my advice is understand the laws of your state and get a sales and use tax number and just file 0 every month if it's 0. And if it's not 0, pay the $100, instead of having to deal with that whole process. Thankfully, we didn't get audited, and we're still in a window, but we didn't get audited for income tax, so that would be a nightmare. Not because we're trying to hide anything, but you have to prove everything. And it's just like, oh my God, it's a nightmare.
I've got a question about maybe business ownership and, kind of along the nightmares theme, but hopefully maybe pulls us into a different territory. Are manufacturers evil? Do they just want to come and load your barns and leave you with a bunch of products and say goodbye. I hope you sell this one day.
Isn't this a Trane sponsored call? That's not been my experience. No, that's not my
Good.
experience.
Oh, we
So
love to hear that.
the distributors that we worked with generally were great, and they got us, and we got them, and they more times than not gave us the benefit of the doubt. And we lots of examples where the distributors really, the people between the manufacturer and the dealer, really stood up for us, and that's something to look for when you look for a distributor. Lowest price is great, but not if the service isn't there and they don't back you when trouble hits.
Yeah, that's good. And that's a really good point, because there is a layer in between, right? Most manufacturers, some do, but most manufacturers don't really have that direct dealer model. Because honestly, the distribution network of the United States and beyond is complicated, and we need those distributor partners, and they offer that layer of services and capabilities to pull in different kind of marketing opportunities or promotional opportunities and training and incentives and whatnot. So we love all of those things, but that distributor relationship becomes incredibly important, especially as you are partnering with a manufacturer.
Right.
How did you, when you would vet distributors, what were you looking for when they say they got us? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to figure that out in the beginning. So you tend to go to the lowest price, and then if they don't work out, you go to the next lowest price, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you find somebody you like. So that's tough. I mean, the TMs are in a very tough situation going in, especially those that aren't the least expensive in the market, don't carry the lowest quality products, to come in and prove themselves. That's tough. It's a tough place. Trane has the advantage of having a fantastic market presence and reputation. So people get it when it's a little more expensive for a piece of a Trane equipment. And it does sell. That name does sell product. And that, as a dealer, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for, something that people would instantly trust, because they don't know me, but they know Trane and they trust Trane. They'll eventually, once we develop our relationship, they'll eventually get to know me and trust me. But having a name that people trust coming in the door really helps, as opposed to, like, I don't want to throw anybody. Well, I can't throw brands. I can't say brands, can I?
Yeah, but having a brand that people trust is,
who I'm talking about.
That's great. That's really good. That's a super interesting way to look at, not so many different decisions that you've outlaid in, what, a couple of minutes here, 20 minutes or so. It's a pretty complex web that you're weaving.
It is complex, yeah, but it was fun.
So here's a question, Tim. I mean, kind of piggybacking on that idea that, hey, if you're buying brand equipment, it is going to be more expensive.
Yep.
But we made a conscious decision that that's the route we wanted to go. But also the counterbalance to that is, hey, what we're going to get eventually graded on, and what we were kind of keeping our eye on, was our net profitability, or EBITDA, of the business. So on one hand, you go, hey, we're trying to drive a percentage here, that we need that percentage of profitability to go up, but we're turning around and we're making the decision at the same time to buy brand name equipment. How do you reconcile that? How do you say, all right, I need my profit margins to be as high as possible, and I'm going to buy more expensive equipment?
Well, I think the marketplace expects to pay more for brands that they know and trust. And if you're a dealer that is charging the same as a brand that is lesser known, or is known to be on the lower end of quality and other things, then I think you need to understand that you should be charging more, and customers will pay it if you present it right. If you're not having success with that, take a look at yourself and make sure you're following good processes in the sales side of your business.
Yeah, it is one of the more interesting discussions as a sales trainer that I have with people. Is they're like, well, hey, why would I spend more on equipment? I want to make more money. And I'm always telling them, hey, the way you make more money is you sell more expensive equipment. I mean, that's the paradox there a little bit, is it's maybe a little counterintuitive to go, hey, the way to make more money is to sell the more expensive equipment, the brand. So
10% margin is 10% margin. So 10% on 10,000 is a lot less than 10% on 20.
Yeah. For sure. Looking back, I mean, hey, you kind of made it to the end. You did this for, you mentioned 16 years. What are some things you did real well where you're like, hey, we didn't know how this turned out, but we took a shot, we gambled. It was a little risky, but we did it.
So as a team, we were really good at solving issues. And if you're going to move the company forward, when an issue presents itself, you got to have some way to do that, have some way to solve issues and make them go away forever. We were also very good at traction. And when I say traction, I mean getting things done, accountability, discipline within the organization. And that's setting appropriate goals, 90-day goals, 12-month, 3-year, 10-year, point the entire company in the right direction. And he starts by setting those goals. Having effective weekly meetings that start on time, same day, same agenda, start on time, end on time. That's super critical. It's super hard to do, but once you do it 10 times, it's part of who you are, part of your culture. So the biggest danger, I think, with leadership is having a great idea, which it's a great idea. Everybody says it's a great idea. They all agree it's a great idea. You do it twice and then you stop enforcing it, or you stop going. If you have a policy as an owner, you have to walk the walk. You have to do what you say, or your team will slowly, gradually stop doing it, or all at once stop doing it. And then you have to deal with that. So lots of lessons learned. So we did pretty good at those things. Not so great. Let's see. Probably with like data. I didn't have a really good scorecard to use, a weekly scorecard. I should have done it, and I didn't. Towards the end, we started doing daily huddle calls, which really helped, and that kind of substituted for a scorecard in a lot of ways. But if I were starting off again, I would have an effective scorecard that had actionable items on it weekly. A lot too many times we try to run our businesses on P&Ls and income statements that are 6 to 8 weeks old data. It's too late to fix it and change it. Have actionable items on that scorecard that if you get off, you fix it for the next week before it hurts your bottom and top lines on your P&L.
Mm.
Be real specific. Like, what would be a problem where you would say, hey, we identified this on a daily huddle or through a scorecard, and then here's the action item that fixes that. Give me what's an example.
Job costing on every job, 50, 60, 70 jobs a day. We would do job costing. The software would kick out a report, and if there was below our target, we're going to talk about that one, and we're going to dive into it and find out why it happened, and if it was an issue, right, we're going to solve it, and try not to let it come back. And a lot of times it was just technician training, so it helped the service manager know what to focus on next week in his training. So yeah, this technician kind of screwed this up, and that's okay. We just want everybody to learn from it.
I'm glad you said software, because I'm always very interested in this. Are you kind of a two-parter? Are you a technologically savvy person? And when it comes to, software in your business, were you resistant at all, or do you just embrace and can't get enough? So you mentioned scorecards. It's kind of interesting to hear that you wish you had more scorecards, but you like, talk to me about that journey.
Yeah. So technologically, I'm a 7 or an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Better than most, but not as good as a lot of guys. I can tell you, though, if I need to learn it, I will learn it. So if it was a problem that I felt like was worth my attention, I would figure it out. Google. So I ran the business with Outlook and QuickBooks until 2015. So for 6 years. Outlook for scheduling jobs, and QuickBooks for the numbers, for the accounting and finances. Can I say what software we used after 15?
Yeah.
I just said QuickBooks, but everybody knows QuickBooks. So we started using Titan in 2015. We were one of the first people to start using it. it was an effective tool in our business. But no, I like software. I like the concept of AI. Not that we used it in the business enough, but no, anything that can enable people to do their jobs better, or better yet, reduce the number of people that need jobs within the company, I would consider it.
Yeah, it's definitely become, a hot button for some who maybe are resistant to all of the changes that we see around capabilities with technology. And I'm not even talking about like fancy equipment. I'm talking about, like you're saying, business operating systems. Like, how are you going to be able to, work those muscles faster so that you can get to changing the problems that you're talking about? And a lot of times you'll see people recommending these operating systems, and again, the resistance I find out there, I think it's warranted because sometimes it is complicated, and it's like you said, you might have to learn something. But to have those people that know it.
If you go to a software that you hate 3 years later, and you have to changing softwares is a nightmare. Just think about the tokens for credit cards. If you save credit cards in your software, you will not be able to migrate them. They say you will. Every one of them says you'll be able to do it. None of them will make it easy. And by the time they finally get around to it, you will have already migrated all your customers manually. So it can be a very painful decision if you make the wrong decision. So if I've always said that as a business owner, you have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and you have to be honest with yourself. And if you're not good at that, you need to recognize that how important software and IT is in every business. If you're not good at it, hire somebody that is good at it, because you will get left behind. You will make mistakes and you will lose customers because your competitors are using it.
Super valid. Yeah.
Well, that was good. I appreciate you coming on, Tim. We didn't give you any heads up on what the questions were going to be. We just kind of launched them at you to see how you did. So I appreciate it. Now you've had incredible experience going from sole proprietor to managing 70 employees and 3 trades, and now you're helping other people do the same. So thank you for being on today.
Yeah, and echoing that, like I'm like fired up to run a business. Like I know you came in to say there were some hardships and dark days, and life's good now, but I don't know, you make it sound appealing.
Well, can I give out my contact information? If anybody, I love talking on the phone about business, free advice, but I'm also not liable if you screwed up.
Yeah, we'll share it.
My name at Gmail. That's it. My name at Gmail.
We can definitely share it in the show notes as well. Totally. That's a huge offer, and you know what? It sounds like there's a lot that you could learn from Tim. So if you want to reach out to him, definitely do it.
Love sharing. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, thanks you everybody. Always for your time, for listening to us, and we will see you next time.
All right.
And then we do jazz hands.